The problem that I have when I put together teams is I just put together whatever looks good at the moment, and then if it does great, then great. If it doesn't do great, whatever, it's a learning experience. But sometimes I just kind of look back at a game and I'm just like, I don't know what made me think that looked good in the first place. Even after sleeping on it for a few nights, I look at it now and I still don't know what made this team in particular look good now. I don't got any Megas. I don't think I have any Z moves. I don't have any Ultra Beasts. I have one Tapu, and I think I only put that Tapu because I needed hazard support for my last two Pokemon, Salazzle and Golisopod. And then outside of that, it was just a random ass ragtag thing of stuff. And meanwhile, he's got Mimikyu, which can be a threat if you let it be a threat. Lantern, which outside of Mamoswine, my entire team is gonna have a really hard time breaking. Which essentially means that Rotom Wash would have kind of eaten my team alive too. Then you got Mega Alakazam, 2 Ultra Beasts, and a Drampa. Not too scared about Drampa, but the 2 Ultra Beasts together combined with Alakazam, that's gonna be a little bit of a tricky thing to handle. But like I said, Mimikyu's not really a big thing unless you let it be. And then with Lantern, Lantern becomes a problem later. You'll see why. But we'll get to that right now. So he's going to go ahead and lead off with his Mimikyu, and I'm going to go ahead and lead off with my Mamoswine. A lot of these things you're going to end up seeing in terms of these Pokemon. I feel like I don't have to explain in every video this is a Focus Sash Mamoswine, because I'm not going to breed more than that when I have almost full boxes waiting in Omega Ruby. So when Bank comes out, you're just going to see an explosion of variety on everybody's sides. There's going to be probably days, weeks where I don't even use the same Pokemon. It's just going to end up being I mean, if you can only bring 6 and then I've got like 600 or something waiting on a different cartridge, you know, theoretically speaking, that's 100 different combinations. If I really wanted to do that, you wouldn't see a Pokemon again for like another 100 games. But that's not how I really necessarily operate, because a lot of that's PU, a lot of it's Ubers, a lot of them are duplicates of each other for team's sake. And yeah, I don't really feel too much to mention there. Other than when you see, you know, a particular Pokemon, know that I mainly only have 1 or 2 of them max at the moment. I guess is ultimately what I'm trying to say. In this case, it just happens to be just the one Focus Sash Mamoswine. You know, there's nothing strange about this. It's what you've been seeing late. Look at that animation. He just brings in, he moves like his entire body into it. Like if I didn't have a Sash, you best believe I would have been gone. But turns out that I'm going to go ahead and be able to get the Stealth Rocks up, which is probably like the only thing I'm going to be able to do. In terms of, you know, breaking this thing, Icicle Crash does a lot. I got the flinch on the first one. If I got the flinch again on this one, he definitely would have switched out to preserve his Buzzwole. But it turns out that I do not get the flinch on this one, and he actually is able to knock me out with the Earthquake. I don't think we really needed to talk too much about those couple of opening turns. He switched out, I got Rocks. I tried to fish for the flinch on Buzzwole / gauge how much damage it was going to do. I got it, I think I went for an Earthquake expecting a switch, didn't do much, and then here we are. So he's up with a Beast Boost, and or he's back to neutral after his Beast Boost, and he's still -1 from the Superpower. So if I really wanted to take advantage of this with, say, maybe Liquidation from a Golisopod, I could definitely do that. I do not want to go for a First Impression while he still happens to have this, which would have resisted it, which is why I decided to go for the Liquidation in the first place. Plus, I kind of figured at neutral attack, I didn't really suspect him to be the type that had Thunder Punch on his Buzzwole, so I figured I would just go for the Liquidation right there, and it would have been a decent matchup, you know, Water Bug versus Bug Fighting. I resist the Fighting at least, and the Bug, I mean, I'm kind of bulky, but I don't have any natural resistances to Bug or anything like that. So I'm able to catch Nihilego on the switch. If it was Sash, my Rocks from earlier ruined it, so 1 Ultra Beast immediately gone, and I'm looking at the Lantern, and I look back at my team, and I'm like, well, shit, Magnezone can't touch it. What else do I have here? Porygon 2. Porygon 2 can Toxic it, and then I can come in and trace the Volt Absorb, and that's pretty much about it. Tapu Fini is not really doing anything to this because I actually don't have Moonblast. I have Scald. If I had Moonblast, it probably would have been a little bit easier, but I still would have had to fear like the Discharge or the Volt or the Thunderbolt or whatever he wanted to do. And then Salazzle can probably knock it out if it's taken down a little bit, so I'm probably going to rely on Salazzle for that specific role. And then Golisopod isn't really doing anything outside of Leech Lifing and First Impressioning, but he's not going to stay in to let it take that damage. He now sees that without Mamoswine. It's a huge stopgap between my team and the rest of his team, so he's going to try to keep it alive and healthy as long as possible, which is definitely the smart thing to do right there. So with this thing, I'm actually going to go ahead and switch out and then switch back in. And look at the thing gets Roost. Oh my god, my butthole puckered so hard. If you put a piece of coal in there, you would have pulled a diamond out at the end of that turn. That was ridiculous. I've never seen a Buzzwole use Roost before. I didn't even think the damn thing's got Roost, but look at that. All that progress I did with Mamoswine, and I mean, all it takes is really for him to, I don't know if he has defog on anything, so at least the rocks are up, because otherwise Mamoswine didn't do jack shit. But I go for liquidation. This actually does not bring it into berserk range. I'm pretty sure it's like around half. On top of that, I also get the defense drop on the liquidation, which is pretty dang important. The hyper voice is going to do a decent amount, but I am an assault vest Golisopod, so I expect to not be ejected into emergency exit range. I don't know if that was specs damage or not, but if it was, you know, I took it reasonably well, and I'm able to heal off a decent amount of what he did to me. And honestly, the trade-off that this Golisopod is doing, it knocked out the Nihilego, it knocked this thing out, was able to take it on just fine. And then this is a very, very interesting series of turns. I think somebody actually, like, I think one of my Twitch mods actually odd-shotted this series of plays, because this one, I don't know what I was thinking when I did it, but it was really cool. So here's why. So first off, you got to keep in mind that he traces the emergency exit off of me and is going to hit me with a psychic to knock me into emergency exit range. I leave it in here on purpose for emergency exit because I want nothing else to take this hit. So I go out in a Magnezone. This is not the necessary part specifically. Honestly, and this is how you know, like, it wasn't a legitimate play of mine to do this, because otherwise I could have just gone to Porygon 2 straight. He would have gone for Focus Blast. But I trace the emergency exit off of him tracing my emergency exit. As he goes for a Focus Blast, that's a Mega Alakazam. It's going to do at least half to a Porygon 2. If not around half. So my emergency exit activates again. I'm able to go back into Golisopod, and he decides, oh shit, I really don't want anything to take a first impression at this point, so I just go for it. And that's how we take care of the Mega Alakazam, by tracing my own emergency exit onto my Porygon 2, letting that get kicked out, and then bringing back in the Golisopod again. So Golisopod, 3 for 3 with the assist from Porygon 2, and wow, the chat was going wild at that moment. But I thought it was going to be a little bit faster than this, and unfortunately Golisopod does go down here to a critical hit. I'm not sure whether or not that mattered through the Assault Vest, because I know Lantern is not terribly high on the special attacking side. But either way, with the amount of work that it put in, you deserve a good rest, buddy. Go you. So, unfortunately, it does mean that the rest of this match is going to get a little bit longer. Not necessarily owing to that in particular. To have that at a higher HP or slash alive would have been nice, but I don't think it's going to come into... and I don't think it's going to come into play too much versus the Lantern matchup, if you get what I'm saying. Because all we're doing here is we're exchanging statuses. If he has... I don't remember if he gets Heal Bell on, like, Level Up or Egg Move or something like that. But if he had it, then, you know, I would have been in a lot of trouble throughout the rest of this game. But we are Toxic, and I'm actually realizing that the game has... the emulator has actually slowed down this much with this thing, so that's my apologies for not speeding this part up. I just kind of set it to be 200% speed on the original recording, and then just kind of went from there. So I wasn't keeping an eye out too much for stall portions, but as long as Porygon 2 is involved, we got something to talk about, I guess. So I went ahead and I looked at the rest of the video real quick. I just kind of like stopped it immediately right there and say we can just speed it up a little bit. You know, any game that has a Porygon 2, a Tapu Fini, and a Lantern in it, it could probably benefit to be sped up just a little bit extra, because honestly, you're probably not missing much beyond that point. So speak of the devil, I swap out one of these stalled bastards and then I go into the other one, because to be honest, neither of them have a terribly good matchup against Tapu Fini, or not Tapu Fini, excuse me, Lantern, because as I mentioned before, I don't have Moonblast. I also don't have immediate recovery on this thing, but I know he's probably not going to want to stay in on a... I have Scald on this thing. I'm not sure why. I feel like I should be running Surf. I think the reason I have Scald on this thing is for when other terrain users come in to replace it, since, you know, Coco could probably come in and do that. But, I mean, either Coco or Lele, I'm kind of counting on one of them to come in and do that, but I feel like either Surf or Moonblast are just much more reliable. But At least the cool thing I have here is I do have the rocks and I do have the poison working for me to get a little bit of chip on this lantern. It's lantern outside of rest. If it does get rest, I'm pretty sure there's a decent amount of things that get rest, and I think this is one of them. Outside of that, it doesn't have like recover or like, I think it gets aqua ring, but honestly at that point, if you're thinking about aqua ring for your only sense of recovery, you should probably maybe consider a different mod. So I go back into Porygon 2 because honestly that's like the best thing. This and Tapu Fini are like the best things I have to switch in on it, and I just want to see what the rest of his moveset is. I've seen Ice Beam, I've seen Toxic. I thankfully cannot get frozen from the Ice Beam on that, and on top of that the Misty Terrain is in effect, so there would be no chance of that happening whatsoever. I'm also just realizing right now how busted it would be if Misty Terrain made it so you healed your status conditions. I feel like games would go on forever with that thing, but thankfully that is not the case, and he's going to go out back into his Buzzwole. I do have a little bit of pressure going on here because I do not have Ice Beam and T-Bolt. I have Ice Beam and Tri-Attack. I had not revealed Tri-Attack before, and as you can see, it's doing a pretty good amount of damage to the Buzzwole. But I do not want this thing roosting up again, which is why I think I might leave it in. I'm pretty sure I leave it in. Do I? Yeah, I leave it in. He doesn't expect me to leave it in. He actually expects me to go back out into Tapu Fini, and that's how I actually finally get rid of the Buzzwole, by him counting on me to switch out into the Fini on his Poison Jab. So that was the move of coverage. Dude, look at that. He flexes as he dies. That's the most bro thing I've ever seen. That's great. But I'm actually able to come out on top on that matchup. So he has Mimikyu, and he has Lantern left. So Mimikyu does not have the disguise broken on it yet, so I think I actually stay in here to do that by going for the Ice Beam because it's the only thing I have to hit him. I don't remember if disguise blocks status. I don't think it does, but either way, I still need to do some damage to him in the first place in order to get rid of said disguise. So at least I have that going for me, but it turns out he has red cards, so I actually don't take the toxic damage whatsoever, and I'm actually able to, or I get dragged out into my Tapu Fini right now, and I do have Haze on this thing, and I also have Taunt, but the other thing is I am slower than it, and I'm actually running a timid one for some reason, because I think that's what somebody recommended to me for a defensive one, which doesn't really make sense now, unfortunately, because I would have been able to take this play rough a lot better, but as I mentioned, I do have the Haze. The Haze is going to get rid of the Swords Dance, and I do have the Scald, which I can use to hit him for a little bit. I think I showed him Taunt earlier in the game as well, as he switched into his Lantern. I believe that might have come into play there, but he knows he's faster, so he's still going to go for it anyway, knowing that I have to attack him before he decides to go for Swords Dance, if he wants to go for Swords Dance, and that is like... There's no hope of burning him thanks to the terrain, unfortunately. We haven't been out long enough for the terrain to fade, and I believe he's just going to go ahead and take me out with a play rough from here. So I got some damage off, and the disguise was busted, and I think that's all I can really ask for right here. So I have a Magnezone. It's at a decent amount of HP, and I'm kind of hoping that he will not take me out with Shadow. You know, if it was a crit from Shadow Claw, then I think that probably would have been game over. But as you can see, Shadow Claw is actually not doing that much because he does not have a Life Orb. He had a red card, and I'm able to knock him out with the Flash Cannon. So now we just have this crazy uphill struggle going against this Lantern. But I do have a battle plan for it, and all I'm really going to end up doing is I think I just end up going for Flash Cannons to try to get the special defense drop, because that's going to help a little bit against the Salazzle. But I still have some other things to work with. I can still go for Tri-Attack if I switch it in, you know, on a... I don't know what I was expecting to have happen here. Maybe live a Scald or something like that. But no, not the case. I think... I don't know why I made this play, honestly. Maybe to stall out an extra turn of Toxic or get the ball rolling on that because it is his last Pokemon. I feel like that's the only reason I went for that. But in reality, I could have just kept going for Flash Cannons until that died and then gone into Porygon for the final turn. And then I still do have another Pokemon after that. So I feel like the way this played out was moot. And I'm literally just trying to run out the clock on this thing to the point where I feel comfortable enough to bring in Salazzle and knock it out with a Sludge Bomb or a Dragon Pulse. I'm going to end up going for Sludge Bomb. I don't know why I would end up going for Dragon Pulse. But as you can see, I get a crit on the Flash Cannon, but he does get a burn on the Scald. Not to say that one justifies the other or vice versa. He was more likely to get the burn. And I think, honestly, he probably could have gotten me out in another turn anyway, so just 2 Flash Cannons. Probably, if he takes me out on this turn, then the crit from Flash Cannon I don't think mattered too much. It is a ×4 resistance. You got to keep that in mind. I think he ends up being in the... Oh, I get 2 crits is what happens. But this doesn't really change too much what's going to happen on this last turn in the first place. I didn't really establish whether or not he was physically or specially defensive either. I would assume physical because he has Scald and then, you know, that whole thing. Might come into play to whether or not what I did here was actually relevant. I just did it for style points personally, but I have the Firium Z, so I actually go for the Inferno Overdrive on this turn, just to finish it off. So my question to, I guess, the viewers at this point, and as well to Mana, I don't know what your Lantern was, if it was physical or special on the defensive side. So whether or not this Inferno Overdrive, you know, how much that would have done and from what range that would have been necessary to do that. Oh my god, that thing just got straight up nuked. And then I feel like Sludge Bomb still would have done more. I literally just did it just to say I did it. So anyways, that's the game. I feel like I kind of rambled on a little bit there, but did get a little stally. I just, you know, for the emergency exit thing that happened earlier, and then like the first half of the game where I pretended like I wasn't having trouble with Lantern, that was a thing. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it kind of overall, I guess. If you did, you can leave a like rating, comment, subscribe, do your thing. You guys know how that works. And got another game coming up later on in the week for you, and I think at the time of me recording this, because I'm doing this all in advance, I should have a showdown session going along with this as well, so look forward to that also. And then I think that's it for today. I'll see you guys in the next one.